Hi, everyone. I am super excited to have Dr. Eliza Cait on the podcast today. Dr. Eliza Cait is not only one of my favorite people in the whole world, she's a very good friend of mine, but she's also a doctor of physical therapy, a pelvic health expert, and is also the creator of the website elizacait.com, which is a great resource for all of your pelvic health needs. It's a very impressive website. I'm just continually impressed by you.
Well, the feeling is mutual.
Oh, thank you. Well, today we were going to be talking about infertility. So infertility is oftentimes a really sensitive subject, especially for couples who are struggling to conceive. In the US, there are approximately 6.7 million women who are facing challenges getting pregnant. So if you are one of those women or you are one of those couples, just know that you're not alone, and there is hope, and the struggle is shared by so many in this world. Infertility treatments can get crazy expensive. I was looking at some stats, and it was saying that 20 to 30% of in vitro fertilizations are successful, which is a pretty low number considering the really hefty cost. They can be really expensive.
Yeah, I think people are pretty surprised by that.
Yeah, totally. So then the question remains, what can couples who are facing difficulties conceiving do to increase the odds? And then also, what might be the underlying causes of that infertility? And what can pelvic health PTs do to help?
Yeah, so I think that to address your first question of what can you do to help assist infertility, you first have to understand why maybe you might be struggling from infertility, because the treatments for those things vary widely based on why you're struggling with conceiving. So I would say the biggest reasons that sorry, my voice is like dying on me here.
Some water? Maybe we should have some wine. I thought about that. I was going to pour you a glass. Then I just have two here. I'd be like, here you go. Oh, just kidding. I'll keep
one
these.
for me, one for you. But anyway, so there's endometriosis, there's polycystic ovarian syndrome, uterine fibroids, hypothalamic amenorrhea, and all of these things kind of arise from different things and are treated differently. So for me personally, why I kind of got into studying infertility is because I actually am someone who suffers from some subfertility. And so my story, I kind of was a college athlete. I just worked really hard to get through college, and then went to PT school.
Which is super stressful. And you played
relaxing.
Soccer in college, right?
Yeah. So I played soccer in college. And I was an athlete. I ran cross country and everything before that. Anyway, and when I was in PT school, dealing with just the anxiety and the stress of that. And then to top it all off, I was on the birth control pill, and now they're coming out with more research saying that that might also have some effect on women's fertility. And all that to say, when my husband and I kind of talked about, let's just start thinking about this, and I came off the pill, my periods never really came back. And so it's been a couple years now that I've been just researching and reading, and have finally seen a return of cycles. But so I was diagnosed with hypothalamic amenorrhea, and all that to say that I was just underfueling my body and stressing it out. And so I had to just stop exercising as hard, really focus on self-care, and eat a lot more calories than I was. So my treatment is a lot different than for someone who has PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome. Those women tend to have a little bit more issue with insulin and gaining weight too easily. So for them, they actually kind of need to do the opposite of someone with HA. So exercise is their friend, making sure they're really being weight conscious. So all that to say, the reason why you might be experiencing fertility issues is an important factor to look at. So, yeah, but in all of them, I think just self-care is an important thing.
Yeah.
And
And I think a huge part of that self-care piece is learning how to manage cortisol, learning how to manage stress, because there's so much stress in our world. And there's been a lot of research that's talked about how our bodies are actually not designed to handle as much stress as we experience on a daily basis. I mean, we weren't created for this, and we're trying to cope with it. And if something is going wrong within our body, or our body feels that it can't thrive, it tries to send us all these messages. And sometimes the message has to be like really powerful for us to pay attention. Yeah. So it's just, it's interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. Just that stress is kind of, I mean, of all the diseases that we have to deal with, is kind of a baseline, I guess a common denominator in all of them, particularly because it increases inflammation in the body, and inflammation in the body tends to be kind of a precursor to a lot of issues, and including fertility.
Yes.
So, so aside from PCOS, hypothalamic amenorrhea, endometriosis is a big one for a lot of women, and uterine fibroids. And both of those things, there is some research that's been done showing that perhaps exposure to certain toxins or certain foods can increase your risk for those things. So,
so like a lot, we were talking about stress. So stress isn't just like, oh my gosh, I have so many deadlines, or my boss is horrible, but it's also the things that we experience in our environment. So environmental toxins are totally a stressor to our bodies, and attack our sense of homeostasis, our body's balance. And it can lead to disease, which if we break the word down, it's literally dis-ease. So the body is no longer in ease, no longer balanced. So yes, I definitely want to ask you about this more, because we talked a little bit about environmental toxins last night, because we hang out all the time. But so I'm curious, what environmental toxins particular seem to have the most effect on maybe the female body, and then kind of like your personal journey with identifying these toxins and perhaps removing them from your life?
Yeah. So I think I don't want to overwhelm people with the amount of toxins that are out there. And I always like to say too, that we're exposed to so many chemicals every day, and a lot of them we can't do anything about. So people, don't stress out. Like, we have to focus on what we can, and try to do our best to make our environments as hospitable as possible.
That's right.
While still, like, it's okay.
Yes. Manage what you can, and what you can't, there's always wine. Which, don't abuse that, or else that can turn into a toxin. Everything in moderation, but still.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, when you're trying to conceive, wine may not be your best choice.
Right. Oh, just kidding.
But, there's a lot of different.
That's why we're interviewing you. You're the expert. Don't listen to anything I say.
I don't know if I'm an expert, but all that to say, I think that one of the easiest things for women to start looking at is fragrance. So this was the first thing that I started doing, and it's still like the number one thing I look for when I look at ingredient labels. So there's been a lot of research, and I think talk recently about phthalates. Have you heard that term?
Yes. Yeah. I've heard it in conjunction with shampoo. Is it in a lot of shampoos?
Yeah. So phthalates are, they're ubiquitous. They're like everywhere, and you won't see them on the label. It'll just be under the word fragrance. So because companies have proprietary secrets in their fragrances, they don't have to disclose what chemicals are in fragrance.
Oh, that's sneaky.
Yeah. So, Yeah. So when you see fragrance on a label, that just literally means they could have put whatever they wanted in
Yeah,
there.
that's the umbrella term. They're just like
Mhm.
fragrance. Mm.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think if there's a brand that you really trust and you see fragrance on there, maybe just ask them, like, what kind of fragrance do you use?
Yeah.
Is it essential oils or et
Yeah.
cetera?
That's a great, I like that. That's a great way to be kind of like autonomous and have self-efficacy and reach out to companies and ask, hey, like, what am I putting on or in my body? Like, I want to know
Yeah.
this. Like
Yeah.
that, I like that. That's like holding companies accountable. But
Mhm,
then I
mhm.
wonder how many companies will actually respond. I guess if they're like a smaller company, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, I like
Right.
that. Conscious
Yeah.
consumerism.
Exactly. Conscious consumerism. Yeah. So, and I think what's great too, when I first started getting into natural healthcare in college, I was telling you about this documentary I saw called America the Beautiful that was all about America's obsession with beauty. And it really opened my eyes. And yeah, so there's this bill, it's called the Toxic Substances Control Act, and it was put into place in 1976. And last time I checked, it has never been updated.
Oh
So
my
we still have the same
gosh.
legislation from the 70s. Um,
Can
yeah,
I just
and
appeal to the government? Can we add this to the list? I'm sure the list is so long, but can we add this to the list of things to talk about and maybe try and solve?
right, yeah. So all the more reason for conscious consumerism, right?
Yeah.
Because we just can't we can't expect that the government is going to be able to do all the things that we might like it to do. Um, but anyway, so in that, it doesn't require safety testing until a chemical has already shown to be a problem. So essentially, they like can do their market research on us and see if there's a problem. Um,
We're the lab rats.
yeah, we're the lab
Excellent.
rats. So all that to say, it's I really advocate for women to start looking at your, just like what you would look at what is on your product label in the grocery store, like does this have a ton of sugar in it or
Hmm.
whatever. Same thing with the chemicals or the products that you're putting on your body. So yeah, it's pretty amazing how many chemicals we have in our body. There was a study in 2014 that found that we had like 265 chemicals in our body,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
just crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, like, so our skin is a like a microbiome of its own, and we have
mm,
our gut microbiome, and like that's a lot for our little bacteria farms to like, manage and protect us from.
yeah, yeah.
Also, like household cleaners. I know when I was in college too, I went through this whole kind of, I don't know, revitalization in my personal life where it's like, what am I actually putting on and in my body? Because I actually had a very severe allergic reaction to some topical medication that was prescribed.
Mm,
And that's what kind of started my journey. But household cleaners too are another big one
yeah,
that I've
yeah.
realized. And um, what I experienced in college, my mom and I kind of teamed up and we're like, we're going to get rid of all these cleaners and we're going to start making our own. So my mom and I make our own like laundry detergent. We
Hmm.
make our own like countertop cleaners and window cleaners. And it's amazing what you can do with baking soda, vinegar, and some essential oils. Like that's
Yeah,
literally all you need.
right. And I am not quite as good at DIYing as you. So I have made of my own, but right now I've been using Branch Basics. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I have. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm pretty much obsessed. So I use it for everything in my house.
Cool. Well, if you're obsessed, then I should probably get obsessed about it. That's like a good sign. I'll just
Yeah,
follow your
I really like
obsessions.
it. um, anyway, so all that to say, yeah, just reducing the amount of toxins that your body has to deal with can be helpful in decreasing the inflammation and the stress that your body has to deal with.
Hmm.
Um, and less stress, less inflammation. It's, I think the hard thing to say with fertility issues is we can never say with 100% like, oh, if you deal with this, you will get pregnant. But it's really putting you at least on a better path for that. And like you were saying with the IVF and assistive reproductive technology having sometimes kind of a low success rate, there is a lot, anything that you can do to help yourself if you do have to go that path, be more successful. It's a good way to go.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
So,
and like we were talking about inflammation too, and something that I'm really interested in is how the body manifests stress and manifests physical trauma or emotional trauma, and actually houses these things in your body. Like the body never forgets. So everything that you experience on an emotional level, on a physical level, your body remembers, it houses it somewhere, and you can have physical symptoms from it. So like stress or trauma can cause inflammation. Inflammation can lead to scar tissue. And there's research that's been going on since 2015. I think that was the first article that talked about how pelvic health physical therapists can help in the battle against infertility by breaking up scar tissue that forms, whether it's from inflammation or past trauma, like a C-section or a traumatic birth or any trauma, car accidents, things like that, athletic injuries. As the body heals, it can build up scar tissue, and the scar tissue can stick to your organs. It can clog the fallopian tubes. It can cover your ovaries so that eggs can't be released. It can, like with endometriosis, that trauma, like that scar tissue can form on the uterine lining and prevent embryos from implanting. So this is something really interesting in the world of pelvic health PT, that we can actually help to get rid of that scar tissue through mobilization, hands-on treatment, working one-on-one with women who are trying to conceive and helping their bodies regain more balance and more equilibrium and greater homeostasis. So, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think it's cool how I think it's really beautiful how our bodies want to heal.
Yes.
And so everything that we've talked about is just, it's not that complicated. It's just trying to get all these little pieces together.
Yeah.
To really allow your body to heal.
Yeah. And I think in so many circumstances, we can kind of feel that our body is against us. And especially in, a case of infertility, when you're trying to conceive, you're trying to start a family, and your body's not cooperating, and you're like, it's me against my body hates me. And like, that's not the truth at all. Like, your body is for you always. Like, your body is, to get all yoga on you, like your sacred life partner. Like, your body is always on your team, and it wants the best for you. But you know what? It needs like good conditions to survive in. And I think we were talking about last night about, if your system is overloaded and like you're just trying to survive, your body's interpreting that, and it's like, hey, we need to put all of our energy into helping you actually survive and thrive. We can't even think about, making a baby right now. Like, you're number one here. We need to take care of you. Like, put on your own oxygen mask before helping the baby next to you, sort of deal.
Yeah. So, to use the flight attendant metaphor there.
Yeah. I actually always wanted to be a flight attendant. Conversation for another time. Yeah. I had the whole, like, here are your exits, like the whole dialogue memorized.
That's awesome.
Conversation for another time. We can talk about all of my dream jobs, which are, a pelvic health PT, totally dream job. Now we're back on track. Great.
That's awesome. I think, and going back to, really understanding the cause, with that, like hypothalamic amenorrhea, what I have been experiencing, that's literally your body, like, it's just shutting down the communication to your ovaries from your brain, because it literally doesn't want you to ovulate and have a child. So yeah, stress is just, I think if people don't get anything else, managing stress is like the number one thing you can do for fertility, which
Yeah.
is really hard because infertility is stressful. Like, I
Yeah.
understand it really is. So,
That's like a total like catch-22 double-edged sword. Like manage your stress, but you are literally in a stressful situation. Like
yeah,
everything's just stress.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well, and
hard.
I think that as we were saying, like your body really wants to heal, and giving your body the best chance for success. So eating food that helps nourish you and doesn't make you feel stressed out or have these high low crashes of blood sugar spikes. But also, I'm a big proponent for counseling. So,
As am I. Definitely. Everyone
yeah,
needs a counselor.
absolutely. So I think that's another big thing. And then I think doing exercise that actually makes you feel good and not just trying to kill your body or
Mm.
you're just trying to lose weight. I think especially one of the things you hear a lot in, or you used to, I think it's getting less, but in fertility circles was like, oh, well, if you're overweight, you can't have a kid, which is true to some extent. But if you are punishing your body, that's also not really a nice, safe space to have a
Yeah,
baby.
definitely. And I feel like we're kind of embarking in the season where like body punishment is like happens all the time, like
Hmm.
body shaming. And with the holidays approaching, it's like, oh, I ate too much, I shouldn't have eaten all that. Like now I feel terrible and I'm going to make up for it by restricting my food the next day and punishing my body for it and like punishing me. And like that's not healthy at
No.
all. I was actually reading a post by Jamie Lee Finch, who is amazing. I really appreciate her. But she was saying how she was talking to some friends, and they were talking about guilty pleasures during the holiday season. And she was like, "I don't feel guilty about any of my pleasures. Like I don't feel guilty about food, and I'm not going to feel guilty about eating on the holidays because food is what brings people together. It is a
Right.
vehicle that promotes human connection and a sense of belonging and family. That's what food can do if we allow it. Food can also,
Yeah.
everything can be good or bad, uh,
Right.
depending on our mindset and how we use it or abuse it. But
Mhm.
if you go in with a mindset like that, then there's no reason to punish your body for overeating. It's the holidays. You were connecting with people. You were connecting with friends. That's such a healthy, good thing. Like, don't punish yourself for that.
Yeah. I think I heard someone say something about like the way that we talk to ourselves, would we say that to our friends, you know? And for, I mean, I've had to deal with that a lot for myself too. And going through this fertility journey is just there are times when I'm like, oh my gosh, my body's never going to be like this. Or because I've had to gain a lot of weight, like I don't really like this new
And
body or
you
whatever.
look amazing, by the way.
Thanks.
And I love that
But
we can go out to a restaurant and like share 3 whole meals. And be like, yeah, we're gonna eat all this.
oh yeah. But yeah, so I think the just getting to where you can start to say it's okay if I have this every once in a while. But on the same token, also saying like, if I know this isn't going to be good for me, is this really the kindest thing I can do for myself?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
trying to, I think there's a way that you can talk to yourself and not indulge if you know it's not going to be a positive experience for your body. That's not
Mhm.
like, oh, well, you're fat, so you can't have that. But instead is tells yourself, I really don't feel good when I eat this, and I want to care for my body, so I'm not going to
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree.
eat it. So speaking of eating things,
Mhm.
for fertility, um, Yeah. So again, going back to the hypothalamic amenorrhea, the PCOS, the endometriosis, uterine fibroids. For some people, also issues would be an underperforming thyroid, but also if you were having a sensitivity to a food, so like celiac disease,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So I know for myself, I have a gluten sensitivity, and so that causes more inflammation in my body. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there is some benefit also to maybe some testing for people about that sort of thing. I know for some women, they like cut out dairy and gluten and do the whole 30, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I got pregnant. It's not true for everyone, but I think it's an interesting case study at least.
Right. So with the women that you work with in your pelvic health practice,
Mm-hmm.
or just if any woman would come to you and she would express, open up to you and express her difficulties, the challenges that she's faced with conceiving, what kind of advice would you give to her? And is there like a step-by-step, like, hey, I would try these things first before trying out in vitro and, spending all the money? What would you recommend?
Well, the first thing I would recommend is charting their cycle.
Okay.
So, I don't have you heard of basal body temperature
Yes.
charting?
Yes.
Okay,
Very popular
so
in Europe, but also gaining some ground here.
yeah, um, there's a book called I think it's called Taking Charge of Your Fertility. That's kind of like the fertility Bible. And that's a great book if you have the money to go buy it or find it online or whatever. Um,
Perfect.
I think that's a great place to start, because if you can chart your cycle, it's going to give you a lot of information about what's happening. So you can actually find out, like, well, maybe I have an underperforming thyroid, or if you have a really long follicular phase, which is the beginning of the cycle, maybe you're having some issues. Then if you're having a really short luteal phase, which is the second part of the cycle, all of those things can mean different things. And so I personally think that would be the first place to start. That stresses some women out, but I would say that, and then just trying to look at the toxins and
Yeah.
that are just around
I
you.
yeah. Yeah, charting can be kind of interesting. So I know I haven't worked personally with any ladies who are, working through infertility and those challenges, or at least it hasn't been expressed to me if they were. But
Mm-hmm.
I do see a lot of ladies for incontinence, and we do like bladder diaries, and they like
Right.
chart, like how much they drink, when they go to the bathroom, how many seconds their flow is. And like there's at first I've noticed like a lot of hesitancy, like you want me to chart, and like,
Yeah.
but like so much information can be garnered from that, from actually seeing what patterns your body has. And like it really helps with kind of cause and effect, like finding correlations. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it would be, I feel like in our current society, there's a lot of dissociation going on. So definitely a lot of dissociation from our bodies, dissociation from others and human connection due to social media, which, I mean, we're connecting over social media right now and
Right.
platforms, which is great. But I think being dissociated from our bodies is such an interesting concept, and charting and following your cycle and seeing how your body works and really taking time to connect with your body in that
Mm-hmm.
way, I think could be just like in more ways than one, a very therapeutic tool, because
Yeah.
of what we're experiencing in our current society, and people aren't attuned to their bodies. It's hard to listen to the subtle language of the body screaming for help and saying, this isn't right, please help us.
Right.
So
Well, and
I
I
think
think,
that's cool.
yeah, the other thing that is really interesting about the charting is that I don't think a lot of women really know their cycles very well. And you I don't think that we got the knowledge that you're only fertile a few days out of your cycle. So sometimes women just aren't having intercourse on days that would actually allow them to conceive.
Yeah.
So
So
if you can learn,
what days are you the most fertile?
well, it depends on the length of your cycle, and everyone's cycle is a little bit different. But if you, the more that you chart, the more you can figure out your normal cycle. But the best time to have intercourse is 2 days up to the day of ovulation. So like I said, it depends on your follicular phase, but there's like pretty much 6 days in your cycle that you can like get pregnant. So if you're not having sex during that time, you're not going to get pregnant.
Right. So either do your chart or cover all your bases and just have sex daily.
Right. Yeah. And we didn't even get into male infertility. So
Right. Yeah, we're just talking about women. You know what? So much has been placed on women. We are not at fault for everything.
yeah.
We
So
might have
there's
another episode.
that's right. Yeah. They say that with fertility, about a third is, they think, because of female issues, a third is because of male, and a third is like unexplained, which I think a lot of that unexplained may be related to some of the things we've been talking about, where there's just a lot of little things that are stacked on top of each other. If it's like a little bit under functioning thyroid, some toxins that their body isn't wanting to get rid of, excess stress. But anyway, so all that to say, it might not be you, ladies.
That's right.
Have your partner checked.
Exactly. Takes 2 to tango.
That's right.
It takes 2 and some other unidentified things maybe to tango. We're all just in one big flash mob, you know? Okay, these analogies are no longer making sense.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, cool. So who would you encourage that women reach out to? Like, who should be on their team if they're experiencing some challenges with infertility? Who would you recommend?
So I think going to a doctor who really is involved in fertility. So a reproductive endocrinologist is always a good place. For some women, that isn't the most successful. Just they have different goals or feelings about fertility. So I really have appreciated in my own life seeing some functional medicine doctors that just saw things a little bit differently. There is some correlation between acupuncture and fertility, which I think goes back to that stress response. I think a great counselor, and finding people that you can just talk to. So having a web of support of just friends, if you go to a church or a yoga class, or just the people in your life that can really help support you in developing some vulnerability.
Yes. Oh, speak, Brene Brown. Yes, vulnerability. Yes, I completely agree. And just a little shout out, if there's any ladies out there who are looking for support and looking for a tribe to be a part of, little plug for Core 4 Momentum. You can find us on Facebook. We are a private Facebook group. We are for moms, for all women. Anyone who's on the journey of womanhood, we're there supporting you every step of the way. We post educational videos weekly, and we would just love to take your hand and walk this journey with you. So if you're looking for support, you found it. It's Core 4, CORE, the number 4, MOM-ENTUM, Core 4 Momentum. That's a pun there. You're welcome to laugh. Yeah.
Yeah, that's who I definitely would agree with that. Go to the Core 4.
Yeah. And also go to your website, elizacait.com. Really great information there. Your blog is fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's spelled kind of weird, so it's ELIZACAIT.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Very unique. Just like
Very
you. Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Anytime, all the time. Any other points, anything that you would like to say to our listeners and the women catching this on video?
I think just be kind to yourself. I know this is a hard journey if you are struggling with fertility. And I think that no matter what happens, there's still beauty to be found in it. So
That is beautiful. That is wonderful. I'm so thankful that we were able to do this, and that we were able to talk about this together.
Well, and thank you for all your work in helping educate and just empower women. It's really great.
Hey, back at you, sister. We're all in this together.
That's right.
Women supporting women. That's what it's all about. And men supporting women and women supporting men. Let's just all support each other. That's how we make the world a better place.
There you go.
So I've already pretty much alluded to this, but where could our listeners, our viewers, where would they be able to find you, find your awesome blog and see what you're up to?
Yeah, so elizacait.com. And then I also have a Facebook page. So it's at Eliza Cait DPT.
Perfect. Awesome. So everyone should definitely check it out. See what Dr. Eliza Cait is up to. It's always very interesting, and it is always a joy to be in your presence, whether it is, over the interwebs or, in person. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. You're such a bright light in this world, and I'm just so thankful to know you. I really appreciate you coming on and spreading this message of hope.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks. We will see you later.
Okay.